Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen begins her India visit today for meetings with group of 20 finance officials and Indian officials. Yellen, who returned to Washington on Sunday after a visit to China, will continue to build momentum for the collective effort that she helped launch last October to evolve the multilateral development banks to better meet the global challenges while delivering on the core development goals. In India, Secretary Yellen will continue to work towards debt sustainability to bolster the global economy. Also, Secretary Yellen will stress on the importance of deepening India-US bilateral relationship during her third visit to the country in last 9 months. As President Biden said last year, India is one of America's indispensable partners, and Secretary Yellen will use her participation at the G20 in Gandhinagar to help deepen our already significant relationship. After India, Yellen would be traveling to Hanoi in Vietnam for bilateral engagements. Andrew Wood joins us from Hong Kong. Andrew, let us understand more from you about the significance of Janet Yellen's visit to India, because we've seen how repeatedly she has focused heavily on French shoring, and she has also talked of taking steps to build more resilient supply chains. Put all this together, what do we expect from Janet Yellen's visit to India first?
Well, first of all, she's due to be there for I think the G20
yes.
Finance Ministers meeting, and it was only a week or so ago that she was actually in China, and she was trying to reassure China that she was against the idea of decoupling, the idea of cutting as many links as possible between America and China, economic links, business links, finance links, for security reasons. I think that the impression I get is that America feels a lot more sympathy, or a lot more sympathetic to India than it does to China, and so this is an opportunity to try to build on those links. And coming so soon as it does after the visit to China, it shows that I think that America is still trying to, after building links with China, it's still trying to keep its options open, perhaps for de-risking the idea that not cutting links, but trying to find alternative sources of goods, of products, or components, and even raw materials to China. So the fact that she's going to China, I think, is good for it shows that America is taking China seriously. And also, when she goes on to Vietnam too, it's always amusing, perhaps, or ironic that 50 years ago, American troops were on the point of leaving or evacuating from Vietnam, but now Vietnam and America seem to be more like allies, or certainly friendlier to each other than Vietnam was to China.
All right, Andrew, also you tell us that, evaluating Janet Yellen's visit to China, that US is taking China seriously. That brings me to the next question of the bilateral, in fact, the meeting which US Secretary of State Antony Blinken had with Chinese diplomat Wang Yi. How do you evaluate that? And also it coming on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, how far would it further, aim to ease the differences between the two countries, which the leaders of both sides have been reiterating?
Well, the ASEAN summit is quite a useful summit, not really in many ways for ASEAN, but it's very useful for countries like America, India, China, and so on, whose foreign ministers attend. They don't take part in the summit, but it's a great opportunity for them to have a dialogue with ASEAN foreign ministers, and also these sidelined meetings, which they're not quite official, but they're not as serious as a summit or a visit, but it's an opportunity for them to talk. Now, don't forget that Mr. Blinken and the Chinese Foreign Minister only met about 3 weeks ago, when Mr. Blinken made that trip, the first trip by a Secretary of State from America to Beijing for 5 years. So they seem to be trying to build on that relationship. What the two sides seem to be saying, though, about the talks, they're not giving away many details. They haven't given away many details. Obviously, a lot of talk about peace and security. America raised the issue of allegations that Chinese hackers broke into cyber broke into the State Department and the Commerce Department in Washington and were able to read emails sent by, for example, by the US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, who herself might visit China in the next few weeks. For its part, China has repeated its request or its demand that America gets rid of sanctions on Chinese companies, unilateral sanctions. So I don't know if there was really a meeting of minds. They've kept the dialogue going, and that I think is the good thing. As far as India is concerned, well, ASEAN seems to be turning more and more to India than China. We've seen this during this week when Mr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, met with ASEAN foreign ministers.
All right, Andrew, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those inputs. That was our correspondent, Andrew Wood, joining us from Hong Kong, explaining to us more as to what are the expectations of US Treasury Secretary